things up because a rocker arm has a ratio, a 1.5 or a 1.6 geometry ratio. Yeah, they do, but we're not concerned with that. We're right over the tip of the valve. This is where we want to be. So regardless of ratio, how much this is moving on this end of the rocker is how much it's moving the valve. The rocker arm could be an inch thick. It doesn't matter because if it moves an inch up here, it moved an inch down here. It doesn't really matter. And we're not worried about ratio because if it's moving out here, it's moving the valve down that far. So we're really not concerned with that. So I'm going to put this right out on the edge there, right over the top of that roller. Then what we can do is look around here and zero it. Okay, now once we get into the transition area of the overlap, we can start watching the valve movement and we can see, let's say we're in this area right here. Say that was our highest point. And again, you check it in like 10-degree intervals. But if this is our highest point, then what we can do is depress the valve, and if it went down, say, so far to right there, well, that would tell us how much clearance we have in thousandths of an inch. Every one of these, every single full rotation is 100 thousandths. 125 thousandths is an eighth inch. We really want, like I say, on an exhaust valve, I've done them as tight as 80 thousandths. That's pretty tight. Most manufacturers want to see 100 to sometimes 120 thousandths on the exhaust valve. On the intake valves, you can get as tight as 60. They don't really like to see any closer than 60. Now some guys, I've seen them run them at 30, 35 thousandths. And you know, it's just cutting things really close. There's no margin for error. You get a little valve float and that valve's hung open a little bit, that piston is still moving because it's attached to the crankshaft, but the valve is attached to a spring and it can hold out and kind of float in midair. Well, if it's floating and the piston's coming up, piston's going to smack it and close it for you. You don't want that situation. So you need enough clearance in there just for a little problem of if you did valve float or something. So really what we would do in this situation, if this was close, is we would put the dial indicator on here like this and just depress it and see how far down it went and count where we're at. And if it was anything above 100 thousandths or 120 thousandths, then you're good to go. So now the question might come up, well, Aaron, what if it's too tight? What do you do? Well, there's a couple of